So, Sunday again, and thanks to the weather turning around, I've been able to work outside much more, which has been really good actually. So, as you can see, I did another piece. This is also plum tree root. This is a light actually. I just hollowed out the inners and then added a bit of metal in there, and then attached a light. And yeah, that's it. It's a lot of sanding in this one, I had to say, due to all these roots sticking out, right? So it's a lot of sanding by hand. It's mostly all done by hand, although I try to do as much as I can with the machine, but after that it's down to hand sanding. As such, I might actually tell you something about sanding. Normally, most of the people buy sheets in this, I guess, around depending on where you live, but most of the sheets I buy of sandpaper are usually in this size, right, like a sheet of sandpaper. And when you sand a lot of this by hand, you really don't need much sandpaper. What I actually, when you sand by hand, like when I mean my hand is like this, just with your hand and not with those sleds that you attach the sandpaper on to get the flatter surface sanding by hand. But if you're sanding by hand, just with your hand, I would recommend to fold your paper in three. First in the middle like this, and then fold it again. So you end up with this. And then you just, 1 second. All you do, or all I do, and this is gonna save you a lot of time and frustration and actually money. I cut these to about 5 centimeter pieces, or 2 inches by 2 inches. And also, if you have a dull scissors, it's a good opportunity to sharpen it up. Anyway, so you get these around 5 by 5 squares, and they're folded in like that, right? So when you sand, the sandpaper will not, normally if you fold it just in two like that, you get way too much sandpaper, which is gonna just be waste, and then it's gonna slide like this. How to show this? Like this, because there's no holding it back when you're sanding, right? So it's gonna go like that, and then that side is gonna tear. So I recommend to fold it in three, which means it's get a surface to hold it on, so it will not go like that to crack in the fold. And also, when you do a lot of sanding by hand, I like to point out that learn how to sand with two hands, with both the right and the left. If you do that, you can sand for hours, literally, at one go. And also, like, sanding with your hand is not just sanding with the fingertips. You also can, like, another zone would be sanding with the thumb, depending on the crevices and so forth. But, like, as I say, you have like 4 zones on your hand to sand with. Would be the fingertips, your thumb, and I don't know, the thumb thigh down here, and this side of the palm. On here is just fairly simple, because you got a kind of flat surface, but it's also big muscle there, so you don't get tired in your hand. And then the last spot would be here, and then I just hold it with the pinky like that when I sand. And doing that, switching from front of your finger to the thumb, to the thigh of the thumb, to the, whatever we're calling this, to the palm of your hand, kind of stretches your hand around, so you don't get tired in your hand when you're sanding a lot. And if you can master that with both right and left, you can literally go for days. But that's my recommendation, or that's how I do it when I sand a lot by hand. So all in all, this is gonna save you money, time, and energy, because sanding is, I mean, it's an endurance sport. You really need to, and as I said before, I really don't mind sanding. It's that's Catherine. She's always busy in the morning. So yeah, as I said, if you want to read about, I write some articles on X long text format about root recovery and harvesting roots and drying roots, for instance, and just random stuff about woodworking and trees and stuff like that. I'm just starting there, so it's a bit scarce, but I guess it's gonna build up as I go along. She's very vocal, she. We called her. We got 4 chickens, and the only one that survived was the rooster, and she was already named Catherine, so he's Catherine the rooster. Anyhow, as I said, with sanding, it's a lot of manual labor, for sure, a lot of manual labor. But how to explain? When you sand with a machine, you're always gonna get these small round semicircles, and you don't really see them until you start varnishing or put oil on it. And as you know, I don't really endorse varnishing, but oils for sure, you're gonna see it straight away. And another really good tip before you put your oils on, it's also a very good practice. If you have like an air compressor, just blow off the dust as you can. But after that, I would recommend to wipe down all your stuff with a wet rag. Damp or wet, it really doesn't matter as long as it's humid, moist. And then when you start wiping it down, it's kind of adding the effect of putting oil or some other type of finishing on it, and it's gonna just how to explain that, since all those marks kind of are effectively showing more end wood of the tree, or the root in this case, than the surface, that those semicircles are always going to be a bit darker, so you're always going to see them when you just wipe it down. So before you actually put something like oil, if you would put oil on, it's not such a big disaster because you can just let it dry for a bit, especially if it's your first coat. But it's always going to be a bit more challenging to sand after you put oil on it, because it's going to stick in the sandpaper and just make it cloggy. So just a good practice to wipe it down with the wet cloth before, to see where you actually need to put more focus on sanding. And it's a really good trick, so you don't have to I mean, after all, if you can limit your sanding, you want to limit your sanding, basically. So yeah, just wipe it down with a wet cloth, and you're definitely gonna see where you need to sand more. So yeah, that's the tip for this week, I guess. And also, I want to add, since I did the hollowing out of this trunk here, I like to say that you really don't have to buy expensive chisels, as long as you like stay on the side of where it's actually metal on the chisels, and not just very porous casting, which you can get at these. If you buy very low budget tools, these tools you can sharpen them for a bit, but after a while they're gonna start bending, really, actually, or snap, depending on how they did them. But as long as you go on the low end but quality steel, and the easiest way to see that, actually, is, in my opinion, is the handle, the type of handle they use. They usually use, like on this cheap but top shelf cheap, I don't really know how to explain it, but the better quality of the cheap tools, they usually have this plastic, I don't know the English word for it, but in Swedish it would be bakelit, which is this very hard plastic. And if you hit it with a normal hammer, like a hammer like this is just a normal 16-ounce claw hammer, if you hit it with that, after a while that plastic is just gonna shatter, and then you end up with a metal thing, the chisel itself, which could be a good carpentry project to add a new handle on it. However, if you want to limit it, just make yourself a wooden mallet. And this is a wooden mallet I recommend to just make it from a knot of a tree. You find a tree preferably with the knot goes 3 ways. And then, I mean, this is not fancy in any way. I just needed to get a flat surface up here, and then it's not metal like the hammer. This is just taking up the shocks better and not impacting the plastic so much. And also by having a larger surface, because that's the thing with chiseling as well. When you chisel, you don't look at where you're striking with the hammer or the mallet. You need to look at where you actually chisel, so you know where you're chiseling off. And that's of course comes with a bit of training, but if you have a larger surface, like in this case, it's always going to be a bit easier to constantly hit that back end of the chisel while you're doing it, right? And also having it in wood, it really doesn't hurt. If you miss, it hurts your hands, but it really doesn't hurt as much as smacking yourself with a hammer. So I would recommend everybody that's want to do woodworking to just make your own mallets, because it's super easy and it's quite a fun actually. And you get, I mean, even this is not done to perfection, it's still gonna last for as long as I want it to last, until I burn it up actually. So what I tend to do, just make a mallet for the occasion, and this is just a small, and also like curved handle is gonna help you a bit with, so you just have to figure it out by yourself. Make a mallet, it's a good practice for woodworking, I would say. That was super quick. So yeah, tip of the day: fold your sandpapers 3 ways to save money, and make them smaller. To sand what you actually need to sand for. Don't use so much paper. And if you're gonna start chiseling, make your own mallet. It's and in the end you're gonna have plenty of mallets laying around, since these are just, you made them. So anyhow, that's it for today. That's it for today. What is that? That's it for today, I think. Yeah, short and sweet, I think, this week. But I also have to do again. I promised Weaver to do a review of the planer, which I'm gonna do today. I need to make that, so it's gonna be done as well. So, but anyhow, coffee's out. So I guess I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching. Ciao, ciao.
Every morning